Welcome to the Power Factor Show. Episode 167.
The bandwidth for this episode of the Power Factor Show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. FirearmsRadio.tv.
Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgdon Powders, and JPL Precision.
Welcome back to Power Factor. I'm Rick, and this is going to be the second installment in the new IDPA rulebook. Came out in October. We earlier covered equipment in the form of gun equipment. Now we're going to start down the road of belts and holsters and other gear associated with the gun. Again, I'm going to try to focus only on the rules that have changed. If you're new to the sport, you'll need to know the rules anyway, but if you've been shooting IDPA, some of the rules have changed, whether they're better or worse, I don't know, I'll leave that up to you, but we'll just run over some of the changes. One new rule that I don't know how much effect it's actually going to have, but the way it reads is for male shooters, the holster must carry the firearm so that the entire front strap to the trigger guard is at or above the top of the belt. Now this is a change. The previous rule was that the breech face could not be below the center of the belt. And so I don't know how much impact it's really going to have, if it really is going to be a change, or if it's just an easier way of determining if the gun is high or low enough. I've got a number of holsters here. Mounted on a belt, and they are these two, the Blade Tech belt holster, I think it's called, is definitely rides high enough that you're not going to have to worry about it. There's the gun mounted in the holster, mounted on the belt, and you can see that the trigger guard, the root of the front strap to the trigger guard, is probably about 1/4 of an inch above the belt. So you're plenty good there in terms of how high the gun rides on the belt. So here's another example. This is a White Dog pancake holster, and you can see that the front strap is even higher above the belt. I would say it's probably a good inch above the belt. So again, this is perfectly legal. You're concerned with the front strap to the trigger guard, which for our purposes I'm going to say is this joint right here on the frame, right where the trigger guard meets the front strap. So you can see we've got a good inch of space here. Now this is maybe a little bit more of a sticky wicket. I know I've got black on black on black, which is kind of hard to see here, but you can see just how much lower the gun rides. And I would say, depending on who you have making the determination, that is right at the absolute limit of how low you can go. I did a review of this holster. This is the Sapphireland 567, I believe, and I was touting it as the greatest thing since sliced bread because of its adjustability and whatnot and fitting different guns to it. Again, I would, it looks to me like it's okay. I mean, I see just a little bit of daylight there where the front strap, let me see if I can get my white shirt behind it. There we go. I'd say that's legal, but very right on the edge. I'd say that's about as low as you can go under the new rules. Now, for this particular holster, I think it actually, after I read the rule book, I had determined to my satisfaction that this holster rode about as low as it could on the belt and remain legal under the old rules. But as you can see, because you don't have a deeply cut down front on this holster, it's hard to tell exactly where the breech face is. And I had determined to my satisfaction that it was legal before, but after I really started looking at it, now I'm not so sure that it was. I think the breech face is down here, nearer the bottom of the belt. So maybe this holster wasn't legal before, but I think based on my evaluation of it since the new rule book comes out, it is legal now. So if you went out and bought one, don't throw it away. It looks like it's still legal. But this is, like I said, about as low as I think you can go and still be legal, because you're really working right on this little corner right here. So be aware of how low your gun rides and make sure your gear is legal. And now the rule for women has changed. You're allowed, you gals are allowed to carry the gun with the heel of the butt at the top of the belt. So that's probably a good 2 inches lower than is legal for men. I noticed at the last match I was watching a gal shooting that was wearing a drop offset holster of the kind that was banned by name in earlier editions of the rule book. And for women's wear, I guess it's okay. For male shooters, this is another interesting one. For male shooters, the holster must fit the shooter's body such that 3/4 inch diameter dowel placed between the shooter and the firearm anywhere above the belt contacts both the shooter and the firearm simultaneously. Now that particular test of the fit is new to this rule book. I believe the older version talked about daylight, and there was various descriptions of how to detect whether the holster and the gun on a given shooter is legal. You could have a holster that was legal for one person and not legal for another based on the person's body type. If you had, say, a holster where the top was canted kind of into the body a little bit, that would probably work on anybody. If the holster is canted out a little bit, setting the butt away from the body, if you don't have some love handles, that's probably not going to work. So just be aware that what the legality of your holster belt gun rig is specific to you, and so you need to make sure that your rig fits. Now, I thought it was kind of funny that they introduced this 3/4 inch dowel rule, because when I saw the old version of the rule book, when it indicated you needed to have the spacing in there, I actually went out and bought some 3/4 inch doweling and cut it into 1 foot sections, and I was going to make one for every one of the safety officers at our club. And then we decided it was just a little bit weird to have guys like probing each other with these things, and so this is the only one I have left. I don't even remember why I still have it, but it's kind of funny now that the new rule book has illustrations of some guy probing in between the body and the holster. So anyway, so if you need some kind of a method of testing, it's right here in the book. You get a 3/4 inch dowel. If you can slip it between the gun and the body and it's not touching both sides, that holster is hanging out too far. Now, another thing that they've introduced is that rule now, the 3/4 inch rule, also applies to the magazine pouch on the other side. If you've got more than 3/4 of an inch of space between the body and the pouch, it's illegal. So it's an easy test, easy to verify. You can verify it for yourself if you have your own 3/4 inch dowel, but the rule book shows illustrations of how to apply the dowel fairly and safely. So there you go. There's your probe. And we'll have, the producer will put the illustrations from the rule book up, I'm sure, so you guys can see how to probe. Magazine carriers with screws or knobs that extend past the outer face of the carrier are not legal. So if you have competition-style mag pouches with adjustment screws, I know there are some wide-body magazines that you can get a sleeve that fits in there to turn it into a single-stack magazine. If by putting a spacer in there it's too far from the body, or you've got a big knob on the end of an adjustment screw that protrudes from the body, that's not going to be legal. So just be aware that if you've got a screw that extends past the outer face of the carrier, it's not legal. So if you had a carrier like this, for instance, and you had a detention screw in the middle that was buried down in here between the two pouches, that would be perfectly legal. But if you had some kind of a pouch where the screw was out here on the face of the magazine pouch, that's not going to be legal. So this is clearly a carry type pouch, fits tight against the body, but a lot of competition pouches that are offset to a greater extent or are adjustable with screws, be careful you're not falling afoul of the new rules on that. Here's one. This is the biggest change, I think. If you've been playing the game and you're used to carrying your ammo pouches with the leading edge of the pouch at the body center line, here's one for you. Magazine carriers must be worn in a belt location where the front edge of the carrier or magazine is behind the shooter's anterior superior iliac spine, aka the hip bone. So that's consistent with what's been going on in USPSA production for years. If you know where your hip bone is, find that point. Right there it is on me. And now, whereas I was wearing my pouches before back here to the rear of the body center line, I can now push that forward on my body. It's pretty much the width of my magazine pouch almost. I mean, I can almost move it this far forward. So if you like having your mag set a little further forward than you're behind the body center line, this is really going to work for you. You may be able to move it forward 2 or 3 or 4 inches, depending on your body size. But of course, you still have to pass the concealment test. So if you've got a concealment garment like this, that when it's unzipped, I can lift my arms out and it really only opens up maybe an inch or 2 on the body center line. But if you've got something that drapes open a little bit wider than this and you're wearing those pouches as far forward as is legal, when you lift your arms up, you may be showing that pouch. So I thought it was interesting that what the rule book says is if the magazine is visible, that's not a proper concealment garment. Whereas the way I looked at it was, if it's visible, you don't have your magazine pouch in the right place. So you can still push it back if your garment is hanging open too far with the magazine pouch as far forward as the rules allow. You can still push it back again, but if you want to take advantage of having it all the way up at the hip bone, you might need a different concealment garment. And of course, again, the 3/4 inch rule still applies there. So, what else do we have here? Not a whole lot of change, I don't think. I don't see any differences in the pouches for either speed loaders or moon clips. That to my eye looks about the same. There are some new requirements for police and military who carry a weapon-mounted light and or laser on duty may compete with a weapon-mounted light laser using their duty holster. That I think previously you were never allowed to have a light mounted on the gun while you were shooting, and for military and law enforcement, if that's part of their duty rig, now they're allowed to do so. Lights. Only handheld lights may be used in IDPA competition. For physically disabled shooters, refer to physically disabled shooter section. Lights may not be attached to the shooter's hand, wrist, or arm in any fashion. Rings or straps that go around any part of the shooter's body, finger, palm, wrist, etc., are not allowed. So even on stages that are shot at night, if you've attended a match either shot at night or in a dark house, you can use a light when a light is allowed, but the light must be handheld. You still can't shoot with a light on your gun. Lanyards may be present but may not be used. And the police and military who are using their weapon-mounted light, of course they can't turn it on. If it's mounted on the gun, they're given an allowance for having it on the gun, but they still can't illuminate anything with it. So that's really about the size of it. I mean, in terms of where you're wearing your gun and your reloads, there just really hasn't been that much change. But again, I'd say be aware of how high your gun is riding relative to your belt, and be aware of how far away from your body your mags are riding, because you've got that 3/4 inch rule on both sides. Get yourself a probe and practice with it. Yeah. So that's it for the gear. We'll do additional segments on safety rules and shooting rules. But if you have any questions, of course, give us a ring and we'll get back to you.
Hey everybody, this is Steve. Today I'm going to talk about something that I've learned about recently in terms of shotgun dry fire exercise here. Before we talked about something called the OSP flashlight drill, and that's something that I think there's a lot of value in going and using that drill to work on your mount. But there's another drill that I've learned from OSP here called the OSP3 bullet drill. And basically what the idea is, or the intent is to get you comfortable with looking across your gun or to the left of the gun at the bird and accepting the gun as part of your peripheral vision. But the main point is to mount the gun in front of the bird, either whether it's going left to right or right to left. And one of the problems that I found in the way I was doing my drills, or my dry fire drills, is that, and I think a lot of people have this problem, is they mount the gun onto something and then they come back and they look at the gun to see if it's mounted, how close it is mounted to what they were trying to mount onto. So the problem with that is that if you keep doing this as part of your dry fire exercise, is that you're going to build that into your subconscious programming as every time I mount the gun, I'm going to come back and kind of do a barrel check, which you don't want to do because you're then going to lose your connection to the bird. So the idea here is that when you do this drill, and we have 2 clay targets out here, so we've kind of modified this instead of a 3-bullet drill. With a 3-bullet drill, you always mount onto the center, I'm going to call it the center target, whatever's in the middle. In this case here, I'm going to switch back and forth between left and right to left. But the idea is that you are going to be looking at one target while you are mounting onto the other one. And you do not check, when you do this, you do not check to verify that your mount is correct or on or whatever. You basically are relying on your subconscious to put the gun where it needs to be. And I think this will kind of get you through or over this whole entire thing of mounting the gun and then checking your mount onto, or checking the proximity of your barrel onto whatever you think you're going to mount to. So in this case here, I'm going to use a flashlight just so you can kind of see where I'm pointing the gun a little bit better here. But the idea is that when I'm going to simulate a left to right going bird, so in other words, a bird that's coming and crossing the field from the left or the right. So obviously the gun needs to be mounted in front of the bird. In front of the bird in this case here is to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this bird here, it being the target that I'm trying to shoot at, but I'm going to mount the gun onto this target here, which is basically in front of the bird. So I will look at the left bird and mount onto the right, and I'm not checking the position of the light at all. I'm just relying on my subconscious to put that gun out there in front of the bird. And what this does is basically gets you comfortable with putting the gun in front of the bird and also accepting the gun now as part of your peripheral vision, because part of the problem is that people have this thing, well, don't look at the gun, don't look at the gun. Oh my God, what's that? It's the gun. They are now all of a sudden drawn to something that they shouldn't be looking at. Once you accept the gun as part of your vision or part of your peripheral vision, it's no longer this taboo thing that's out there. And I also now believe, based on what I've personally seen in terms of shooting, is that when I am looking at the target, hard laser focus on the target, I will then see the gun in my periphery. I know where the gun is, and it's just really kind of a weird thing to describe, because it's like I know where the gun is. I know, whether I'm in line with the bird, how far I'm in front of the bird. I can actually be aware of what my lead is. When you kind of go to this zone out where you don't see the gun at all, yes, your subconscious is aware of where it is, but I feel in terms of myself, and just make it in the analytical side of things, I feel like I'm a better shooter, I'm more consistent, more accurate when I am aware of where the gun is relative to the bird without looking at it. So again, the left to right is we're going to just mount on the right hand target, looking at the left hand target, and then the other side of that is a right to left crosser where the target is going this way across the field. So this is my bird now, and this is what I'm going to mount onto. The interesting thing here to do this is that for a right-handed shooter, you are actually looking across the gun. So this is something that will cause a lot of people trouble, is that when they are doing this, they're not used to looking across the barrels at the target. And this will get your mind to accept that as part of your sight picture. Now I'm looking at this, I'm shooting here, I'm trying to put the gun here, but I'm looking at this. So as I do this, I'm now looking over and across the barrels at the target that I'm trying to shoot at, but again, mounting the gun in front of the bird as it's coming across. And it's just simply doing this repeatedly, maybe about, say, 30 times a night on each side, of getting this into your peripheral acceptance, if you will, or your subconscious acceptance of the barrels, but also getting the gun mounted in front of the bird and letting your vision accept the barrels as part of the sight picture, whether it be looking over the barrels or down the side of the barrel. The other part of this exercise that I'll do is, before we talked about on the flashlight drill of moving the gun across the field, simulating a bird, mounting to it, and making sure that your mount isn't doing this sort of a thing or coming down or whatever the case is. And I've done this enough times that I feel pretty smooth on my mount. But the problem was that when I was doing this, I would watch literally the spot, mount to it, and looking straight down the barrels right at that spot. Well, unless you're shooting a trap style target that's going directly away from you, a bird will rarely ever be straight down the barrels of your gun. It's always going to be off to the side, left, right. If it's a quartering bird, it's going to come into your barrels. If it's a crossing bird, your barrels are going to be in front of that bird. So what I've now learned in terms of doing this exercise is that rather than looking directly at the spot, I will look. It's kind of hard to see here, but in terms of the halo around the light, I will look at the left-hand edge or the right-hand edge. Left-hand edge for a left to right going bird, right-hand edge for a right to left going bird. I will focus on that spot, and now I'm looking basically the same thing that I was doing here in terms of I'm going to call it the 2-bullet drill. I'm not looking at the center of the spot, but I'm looking to the left of it. And then for the right-hand movement here, I'm looking to the right of the spot, not at the center. So I'm now looking over the barrels as opposed to straight down the barrel. And I think this will help a lot of people in terms of accepting the barrels as part of their sight picture, but also kind of burning this image into your mind of, this is what I want you to see, this is what we're going to see when I shoot. And then all of a sudden when you are shooting, it's not all of a sudden foreign to your mind of what it's, oh, what's this? I'm looking over the barrel where the bird is, because the natural inclination of anybody who has been doing pistol shooting or rifle shooting is to put the barrel on the target, and that's one of the most difficult challenges to get out of that. You need to put the barrels in front of the bird or in front of the target where it's going, and that's where you need to get the barrels. And that's one thing that I've actually noticed that I suffered from recently here, is that I would mount the gun onto the target and then try to get it in front of it to do my maintain lead. And the problem is that when you do this, you're kind of in panic mode all of a sudden. You get onto it, but the barrels need to be out here, so you're kind of like slashing to get out there and then trying to slow it down once you hit the right right lead point. So I'm going to start working on this technique of getting the gun into the insertion zone or the insertion point. We'll talk about that in a future episode in terms of technique.
The Firearms Radio Network wants to take a moment to acknowledge Handgun Radio, hosted by Ryan Machad. Ryan has been hosting Handgun Radio since July of 2013, when he did his first show on bug guns. Check out the place to be for your news, discussion, and information in the handgunning world. handgunradio.com/iTunes. Subscribe now.